Hi my loves, welcome or welcome back to Olives. If you're new here, hi, my name is Olivia, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for tuning in once again. In this video, I'll share with you how to make a flared short with pleat or a pleated flared short. If this is something you would love to learn, stay subscribed and keep on learning with Olives. Let's get right into this tutorial. We will start off by drafting. So here I'm marking my border lines. I'll move on to mark my crotch depth, which is 13 inches, and this is how I got it. My total hip measurement is 41 inches, okay, divided by 4 is 10.5. Now this is not a simple short, it is a flared short, so you'd want to feel free more. So with these 10.5 inches that I have, I added extra 2 inches to this, so that is 12.5 inches, okay, and I will need half inch to join to the band. That's the waist to the band, so I added extra half inch, which makes up the 13 inches. This measurement includes the band length. I'm going to use a band length of 1/3. You might as well use 1.5 or even 1 inch. So I'm going to place this 1/3 right on my starting line, so you can see the excess there, and I'm going to mark my 13 inches. This is my crotch depth, and I'll put all these points that I'm marking into a straight line. Above this line, I'm going to mark up 2 inches, which will determine my hip line. I also put this point into a straight line. Alright, so this is my hip line and then my crotch depth. Now I'll use the same method, marking out my band length, and I'm going to input my full short length, which is 21 inches. I'll add extra 1 inch as hemming allowance. Again, I'll put all these points into a straight line. By dividing my hip, which is 41 by 4, I had 10.5 inches, right? So I'm going to mark this 10.5 inches right from this starting line here, mark the same thing on my crotch depth and make a straight line. I then mark 1 inch from this side and connected it to the hip, so this 1 inch will be taken off. Now my round waist measurement is 29 inches. I'm going to divide this into 4, and I had 7.25 inches, okay. So I'm going to place this from my new line, my new shaped line here, and I'll move ahead to mark my waist, okay. Now this excess that I have here, which is up to 2 inches, is what I'm going to use to create my dart, okay. Right, so let's move to the down. My total thigh measurement is 26 inches, which I'll divide by 2/13, and I'm going to mark this like this and input it here. So that is my crotch extension. I'll go in from here by 1 inch and connect my crotch together with the hip. Yeah, so that is it. Whatever I have here, which is 13 inches, I'll divide it by 2. I'll mark the result on the crotch depth. Also mark the same thing on the waistline, starting from the initial line that we had, okay. I'll mark the same thing again on the hem, make a straight line, and this will serve as my crease line, okay. I'm going to square down this crotch extension down. I do not want to have a tight hem, so I'm going to measure the same thing I have down there, okay. So whatever I have on the crotch depth is what I have on the hem. Moving on, we have 2 inches extra on the waistline, right? I'm going to mark 1 inch on both sides of my crease line. The depth of my dart will be 6 inches, and I'll create my dart. If you are wondering why the dart is too big, you'll know soon, okay. I'll move on to cut, but before then, I want to keep the crotch line, that's the front crotch line. I want to maintain it, and I do not want to go deeper, right? So to maintain that, I'm going to mark out half-inch allowance. So by the time I sew in this half-inch allowance, I will be able to maintain my actual crotch depth. If you are wondering if this is necessary, I do not think so, but the moment I try stitching away from the actual stitching line, is going to take an allowance for my actual waistline. That means I'm shortening my waist measurement. Okay. Alright, so this is what I have. I've placed this front onto another paper to create the back, and I'm going to transfer the dots and any other line onto the new paper. So here is what I have after transferring every single thing, which I didn't think was really necessary though. Okay, so now that I've successfully transferred the front onto the back, I'm going to extend the back from the front crotch by 3 inches, just as you see, and down here I'm going to also mark 2 inches. We need about 2 inches allowance. Okay, and I'll connect it to meet the crotch. This line here is the exact front as in the center front. Okay, now away from that center front crotch, I'm going to mark 1 inch allowance for the back. I'll also raise the back waistline by 1.5 inches and connect it back to the side of the front, now the back rather. I'll go ahead to extend the dart lines to meet my new waistline. I'm going to do this connection from the top here. I'll connect it to the back extension just as shown. Now after doing all of this, I'm going to clean the inner part, which is the front, so we don't get confused. Okay, now after marking this, I realized that I'm going to sew the sides by half inch, which is a total of 4, which will make up 2 inches. So I realized that this 1 inch that I added may not be enough, so I made it 2 inches instead, which means that I added an extra 1 inch to the initial 1 inch allowance I marked from the center front crotch. Okay, so that will be a total of 2 inches instead. So with this, I have to reconnect it to the crotch extension and re-mark up and connect once again. I hope this is clear, which means that the initial line I have made is not needed for me. It also means that you can actually maintain that 1 inch allowance. Okay, now we are going to close this dart, and to do this I'm going to slash through my crease line just like this and stop right here. Then I can easily close my dart, and this gives me fullness around the hem of the shorts. Okay, hence the reason for the total 2 inches dart. After working with this, I felt I needed much more flare around the hem. Okay, so I decided to slash through the dart line. So this is what I did, just slash through, and then I left a little tip around the waist so it doesn't detach. Alright, so I'm going to place a paper beneath, and this is what I have. So I'm just going to pin down this side like this, and then I want the fullness to be about 9.5 inches. So I'm going to stop opening the other side right on 9.5, and I'll pin it down. After pinning, I'm going to use a tape to tape it down and then connect the hem together. So whatever I'm doing to this, which is the front, I'll do the same thing to the back. All right, so I'll go ahead and divide whatever I have here into 2 and connect it back to the top like this. So this is where we include the pleat. Okay, we are going to cut around this and separate the 2 sides, then we can include our pleat. Okay, again, whatever I'm doing to this, I'm going to do it to the back. I'll connect the waistline like this and blend them together, cut off the excess. I actually placed a paper beneath before I did this. All right, here I came down by 3/4 inch, usually done for shorts and trousers to reduce gaping around the center front, but this is again a free short, so I don't really think this was needed. I did it anyway, but I don't think it's needed. Okay, so I'm going to divide this into 2 as I mentioned, and the pleats will be inserted. All right, Having done with the front, this is also the back. So I'm going to split it into two. Just as the front, I place a paper beneath and then reconnect the waistline together. There will definitely be a shortage after closing the dart. Finally, we are done with the drafting part of this tutorial. Then we'll go ahead and sew. This is 2 yards of a thrifted satin-like material, and I don't know the name because it's from a thrift, right? So if you want your pleat, you can use 4 inches. That's a small pleat, or 7 inches, which I'm going to use. So what I'm doing here is to just calculate the amount of fabric I have, and after calculating I realized that okay, my pleats can be big. Okay, so if you don't have enough material, then you mind the amount of flare you are adding and the amount of pleat you are adding. All right, so I have marked the 7 inches. So the center, which I've written in blue, is the center front of the pleat, and this line I'm going to put one side of my short on it like this, right? So the first part is the pleat and the second one I'm marking is the second pleat. In all, it's about 14 inches. Okay, and I'm going to put the other one as well here. I made sure I aligned them together, okay, so I don't have any problem. Here is the waist. I'll then move on to cut. When I get to the center pleat, I'll notch, and any other point I'll notch, so whenever I remove my pattern, I know that this pleat is going towards this direction. Okay, so here our pleat is an inverted pleat, so it will go like this, and the other one will also go towards the center. Once again, whatever I'm doing to the front, I'll do it to the back. This is actually the back piece, and I've already cut out the front piece. Okay, so this is how the other side of the pleat looks like. It should be about 7 inches in total. Let's see. All right, so this is 7, this is 7. All right, on this day while recording, I did not feel like going out to go and knitting this. I used a lighter to knitting around the edge. It actually worked though. Try not to bend the material, just take your time if you want to follow my footsteps. It really worked, and it will prevent it from fraying. It's better than leaving the edges like that. Moreover, it's satin, so it just bent the edge. This is the point where I realized that I did too much with the pleat. It almost covered the joining allowance. What I'm going to do is to first join the center front, both front and back crotch first, then I can overlap the pleat onto the crotch, right? I hope that makes sense though. Okay, so this is how it looks like after joining the crotch. Then I overlap the pleat at the back. Okay, and I'm going to repeat the same thing to this. This is how it looks like. I'm going to join the sides together. At the left side of the short, I'm going to attach zip. You might as well do it at the front, at the center, back. Okay, so I'll stop at 7 inches. That is where the zip will stop. In as much as I'm going to attach the zip, I'll stitch from the beginning without back stitching, and when I get to where the zip will stop, I'll back stitch, continue, and back stitch at the end. This will give me a crease line after ironing to fix the zip. Moving on to the band, this is just a straight band with my waist of 29 and 2 inches extra. With the band being 4.5 inches, I folded it into 2.5 inch on both ends of the fold. Is going to serve as allowance, which I've ironed up. Okay, we'll move ahead to join the inner tie of both the front and back together. Here I'm making sure that I align the center crotch lines well so they meet. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch with 1/2 inch, and this is what we have. I'll then move on to unpick the part where the zip will be attached. That is why I did not back stitch from the beginning. Okay, so I can attach the zip easily, which I'm going to do after attaching the band. Okay, since my zip is going to be at the left side, now the center of the band will meet the side the other side of the short, okay, then it will pass through to the other side where the zip will be fixed. Okay, so I've gone ahead to fix the zip. Now I'm going to knit in the other side of the band. I just use one side to stitch, okay, so I'm going to flip it like this, the folded part. I'm going to flip it backwards and then knitting the edge with the band, and this is what I have. I'll trim off the excess and turn it inside out. I did this to both ends of the band. So if I close my zip, this is what I have. The next thing is to fold in that 1/2 inch allowance we have on the other side of the band. Fold it in and also push in the excess and just pin it. So while I fold, I pin at the right side. So after pinning, I'm going to stitch in a ditch exactly where my finger is passing through. I'll stitch, and that'll be all for the band. We'll move on to the lower part of the short. Okay, this is a flare, so you cannot hem like a normal short. Okay, so you can either knit in and hem round, or if you have a hem roll like this, you can also use it. So I use the hem roll for one side of the short, just for me to be able to teach you different ways you can finish, okay? Or you can also use a straight stitch. You fold the edge just a little bit once and stitch close to the edge. Okay, so this is what I have after stitching close to the edge. It looks so tiny, and this is the other side. And then the second stage is to fold again. After stitching, you fold again and stitch. We do have a tutorial on how to hem a flare. I'll leave the link in the description box. Damn, is the outcome for me. Did you enjoy watching and learning with Olives? If yes, please give this video a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel if you are yet to. Turn on your notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. Thank you for watching.